stunning admission. Even Hillary Clinton confesses that the media kept her husband's presidency afloat when he and his unbuttoned trousers should have been sent packing. At a Clinton Foundation event marking the 25th anniversary of the '92 election, I wasn't invited. She said Bill wouldn't have survived if Fox News was around.
Our body politics immune system has been impaired because there has been a concerted effort starting with the creation of the Fox network. It wasn't there when Bill first ran. It was one of the reasons he probably survived.
Boy, he looks thrilled. He's saying, please shoot me. Now, she makes this claim while many in the media now admit that Bill should have resigned after the Lewinsky scandal. So isn't Hillary agreeing with these new critics by saying that FNC wouldn't have let Bill slide, but the media monopoly did? So without knowing it, Hillary exposed the media's lack of guts while saluting Fox's. It's hilarious. She also claims that Bill wouldn't have tweeted about his achievements as president. Someone should tell her Twitter wasn't around back then. Hillary, Twitter wasn't around back then. But what a blind spot she has to think that not tweeting makes Bill a man of sound character. He violated an intern in the Oval Office's "sorry, I take the tweeting instead," which raises the question, what if FNC and Twitter had been around back then when Bill was president? How would that have changed things? Twitter would have kept Bill busy, and Fox would have kept him in line, and perhaps Hillary would have ended up president. How hilarious is that? If Fox News was around, Hillary would have been president. Instead, Bill got away with all sorts of crap as the media covered for him. And now they call him on it years later only because there's no consequences. You can't throw a bum out that's been out for 17 years. So, Hillary, I'm glad you enjoyed the party at the Clinton Foundation. I hoped Russia picked up the tab and someone besides Bill brought the cigars. So isn't that, Dana, isn't this the irony, is that she's coming out against two things that if they existed, probably would have paved the way for her presidency. Because if Clinton had been impeached and resigned, that would have given them more moral authority to go after somebody like Trump.
Yeah. Well, and also, I absolutely think that Bill Clinton would have used Twitter if it had been around at the time.
At least to pick up girls. They would have used Tinder, Twitter.
Does that work?
He'd be sliding into the DMs.
He'd be in the DMs. He would have been free Anthony
It was
Weiner.
really interesting to spend the weekend listening to a lot of commentary and reading people have sort of revisionist history of what it was like in 1997. I just remember very specifically for me, I was 23 years old. I was working for a member of Congress, and I was sitting there watching this. I'm like, surely somebody's going to defend this woman, right? Like, surely they're not going to absolutely just throw her under the bus. And that never happened. And they're doing it now. And then you hear them say, well, things are different now. Like, well, what is actually different? The only thing that's different is there's a different president in the Oval Office. Maybe the fact that we're, like, exposed basically every media sector or technology sector, economic sector is affected by this problem of sexual harassment. But I always thought about that as a young girl, as an intern. It was his responsibility, and they all covered for him. And so now, in 1992, looking back, it can't be that people were so blind at the time. It's that they were willfully blind.
Yeah, it was not a big deal. Can we show this is another clip of Hillary talking about Trump, which is hilarious.
Apparently, you know, my former opponent is obsessed with my speaking out. Apparently there was somebody told me, tweet today. Honestly, between tweeting and golfing, how does he get anything done? I don't understand it. So maybe that's the whole point.
Well, you know what, Kimberly?
I don't think Bill liked that.
Yeah, but you know what? Because she's saying, if he's tweeting and golfing, how does he get anything done? That's indirectly at Bill Clinton. If he had been doing other things, he wouldn't have been doing other people.
Okay, so if he golfed and tweeted more.
If there was tweeted existed, he would probably have not
wouldn't have had idle fingers,
Yes.
so to speak. Yeah,
Exactly.
All right,
among
well, I
other
wasn't
things.
thinking that, but I mean, that's why it's good there's 5 of us around the table. I was watching Bill and his body language.
Yes,
and
not
knowing-
good.
Now
knowing
he's like,
him,
oh,
it
can
was
we get
not
off this
good.
subject?
And he right away picked up the microphone.
It was
'cause he wanted
body
to
Morse
shut
code.
it down. Yeah, he's like, help
me,
me,
help me.
help me. So he didn't love it. So he was picking it up and, then proceeded to try to like redirect and turn it around because he doesn't like when Hillary goes on these tangents. And also he's like, don't, poke the President Trump cage and get him going. And then he'll start tweeting about us again. And he has no desire, no bid to have President Trump focused on him right now. I'll tell you that much.
Jesse, I think she insulted the media by saying she wished for the good old days when there were just a monopoly of patsies.
Right. I mean, Fox broke up the mainstream media Dem monopoly, and they haven't been able to get over it. Hillary reminds me of a corrupt dictator that rigs an election and then whines that she only gets 90% of the vote. It's not enough to get fed debate questions by CNN. It's not enough where Politico runs stories by you so you can approve them. I mean, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, all the newspapers, all the magazines, Facebook, Twitter, Google. That's not enough. Well, if that's not enough to carry Hillary over the finish line, maybe she didn't deserve it. And you're right, stunning admission. She's saying if Fox News was around, we would have been fair and balanced with the sex scandals. But she's also admitting that these sex scandals were a vast right-wing conspiracy, that the women accusing her husband had no merit. And I think that's pretty sad.
And they went after her, after them.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
They
a
went after the
concerted
women.
effort to go after the women, which is, I guess, maybe that is different now. That hopefully we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Juan, do you think she's not aware of how the media are reconsidering their role in the 90s? Did she just not follow that? When she
No.
was...
I mean, I first of all, I just so strongly disagree with you because it seems to me.
I am not surprised.
Well, good,
part?
because that's why we have a show. But I mean, what she said was so obvious to me. Guess what? The news media today, including Fox News, really caters to a specific portion of the political people who are interested in politics in this country. And so you have people who will confirm pre-existing biases in the media, whether you're watching MSNBC, Fox News, or whatever, you tune into your favorite talk radio show host. That's the way it works these days. That's not the way it worked back then. And what she said was that currently in this media environment, people don't really care about the facts. They just want to hear something confirmed that backs them. Because the fact is,
they didn't care about what he did.
That's not true. Bill Clinton was impeached. I don't know if you missed it.
But
he was impeached.
The media said it was just a
No, but it was
not only
impeach and
that,
cover.
And not only that, Fox News was around during the time of the impeachment, and Fox News was highly critical of Bill Clinton.
No, but they weren't around for Jennifer Flowers and for
now you're
Colin
going way
Jones.
back. I think
that's what Hillary said.
No, what Hillary
he would
is
never
talking
even have
about,
won the nomination.
I think that
Let alone
they were,
the presidency.
I don't think that's what she's talking about, but I think she's talking about things like
what she
Monica
said.
Lewinsky. And by the way, Monica Lewinsky has said that was a consensual relationship. I think there was a great imbalance in terms of the power
structure,
equation.
right.
Right, but it's not like the young woman was saying something wrong happened in her opinion to her personally. So
He should
again,
have known
I think
Except by
that's
Hillary
quite different.
Clinton to Monica and to
What?
all, except
Right. Just
by
think,
Hillary
if she-
Clinton to Monica and to all the other women.
No,
they all
remember,
feel very personally wronged
There was
by Hillary
criticism of Hillary for not leaving and for not throwing his clothes out on
Well,
the front
I
lawn
was-
of the
And she
White
would have been,
House.
I think if
More
she had
than
done
that.
that, if she had
She'd
been
be
impeached,
president.
resigned, she'd be president.
It could. I don't know. I know
She might
what
have
we
beaten
live
Barack
today.
Obama.
But I know that this
should have
thing
jurted
over
him.
the weekend started with Donald Trump. Donald Trump saying she was the worst loser of all time. And then when she responds, you go after her. I don't get
No,
it.
Juan, you know what
No,
that's
no.
like? That's like my little sister. She used to punch me and punch me and punch me all day. And then when I finally hit her back, she'd go, "Oh, Mom, Jesse hit me."
Yeah.
He's just counterpunching.
You hit her back?
I mean, lightly.
Horrible human.
Oh, this is coming out in the papers tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You got nothing on Charlie Rose.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Well, this Washington Post came out on Charlie Rose today.
Yeah, I heard
He
about
has,
that just
what,
as
8
I sat down.
accusers for walking around naked in front of people?
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to take the Democrats' point of view, though, Gregory.
Yeah.
Go to Kirsten Gillibrand,
Yes.
who's the senator from New York, who took Hillary's seat. I think she'd been in the House 2 terms. Then she takes Hillary's seat. And now she's saying Bill should have quit. They should have thrown him out.
But you can say that now because there's no consequence.
Oh, there is a consequence for Kirsten Gillibrand because I think what you're seeing, I mean, let me just tell you something. Bill Clinton is immensely popular.
Right.
Not only generally, But inside the Democratic Party, very popular.
Most
I
strip
think
club.
his power and the power of Hillary Clinton is waning, which is why Donna Brazile, Kirsten Gillibrand, and others can come out. But boy, I'm just shocked. I don't know what this means for Kirsten Gillibrand's future here in New York City.
See, I disagree. When you say that, it means her future's up and the Clinton dynasty is now a walking corpse.
Well, and that's on purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I think the intention is, to say, okay, listen, enough is enough of these folks, and we've got to move forward with the party. And unless we address the skeletons, which are packed with Clinton skeletons in the closet, they're not going to be able to do that. And they want to have longevity. They're trying to get some elevation on the issue to say, how do we persist forward despite these scandals and what's going on? Well, it's not going to be with the Clintons, and especially when you see now the coverage that it's actually getting that it should have before about Bill Clinton.
Do you think, though, it matters, Kimberly? Because, I mean, President Trump has his own issues, and it doesn't matter to his backers.
Well, there were people that made the allegations, and they had an investigation. And where did any of that, go? I mean, except for the statement to Billy Bush.
No, I think there are lots of people still wondering when they'll get some justice in terms of charges against Donald Trump. But I don't think it, to his backers, they don't want to hear it.
Okay, well, it's going through the appropriate channels of due process and to see what, in fact, will be adjudicated and people that have made the claims.
I just worry that we're in such partisan times that people don't want to hear about somebody that they support.
I think that we were in partisan times before Fox was around. And then when Fox came, it was like, oh, wait, there's another team that isn't actually, holding the water for us. I think that's what she was saying. I
That's
feel like
also
she was
what the
saying,
Pew
like,
Research
it was so
says.
much easier having these patsies.
Right. She was saying that Fox is partisan and everybody else in the mainstream media just want the facts. And that's not true.
Less word, Dana? Anything?
Well, just on the point of the allegations against Charlie Rose that have just come up from the Washington Post, I mean, we are at a point where there might be no one. There might be no bottom to this, and we're all racing to the bottom of it, and we just might
Some
get
faster
there.
than others.
And you just think you could pick up the paper, and every day it could be something else. So I think at some point the conversation has to turn to, okay, then what are we going to do in terms of some sort of reconciliation or something that says, okay, guys, so we've exposed you, Me Too, everybody raise their hand, you all are exposed. Can we get to a point then when we say, okay, so then moving forward, here on out, we all agree that sexual harassment is wrong, and moving forward and see if we can try to get past this as a country.
We're also learning that sexual harassment, seminars, they're not working.
Training.
So the training isn't working. They're looking at the research and they're going, it's...
Oh, so we don't have to go next year?
Yeah, exactly.
Kidding, I'll be there.
I've been to 4 of them, and they're all the same.
But don't you think they're intended to protect the company?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's what it is.
But if it's not having an effect, then you're doing it.
But that's
I don't think, does Congress have sexual harassment
No,
training?
they're just starting it.
Saying it's more like prophylactic, it's good for the company, but are you actually getting something that resonates, where there's teachable moments and lessons that people embrace and therefore engage in conduct change going forward that is positive and creates less of that environment?
So I'm not going to the Christmas party.
There you go. All right.
I'm so proud you didn't call it holiday party.
Yeah,
Juan.
all
Is that
right.
right?
In sorting through all of the sexual harassment allegations that are very much in the news, I was thinking about the Roy Moore accusers and the Al Franken accusers, and how the ones who have gone on television or where there's photographic evidence, it just seems to have more impact, and I'm a lifelong newspaper guy, than even the most carefully done print interview, because people can watch them, they can assess their credibility, they can see if how they describe what allegedly happened. And that was particularly true yesterday on the Today Show, when Lee Korfman, who was the woman accusing Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, who says she was 14 at the time that he tried to have sex with her, she spoke to the NBC audience. She had previously told the story on the record to the Washington Post, but in watching her, I found her to be calm and measured, and to sort of be careful not to overstate the facts. So among the things that Lee Korfman said on the Today Show was she didn't say that she was sexually assaulted by Moore, who was 32 years old at the time, again, that she was 14. He said he tried to seduce her, that he brought her to his house, that he took off most of her clothes, he took off most of his clothes, he touched her, but she said that when she objected, he drove her back to her home. So I thought that was interesting. She also said she hadn't come out with this before because originally she was a single mother with 2 young kids. Later, her older children objected to the notion of going public, but they thought it might hurt them. And it was only because the Washington Post approached her that she felt now, nearly 4 decades later, that she could tell her story. She also said, rather than getting anything out of it, and this was her first TV appearance, almost 2 weeks, I guess, after this first surfaced, that she's had to take a leave from her job and that this has hurt her financially. In the Franken case, we had Leanne Tweeden holding a televised press conference and speaking to CNN. And so, again, you can kind of assess the credibility of this Los Angeles radio host as she described what happened with Al Franken, but also she had that photo, which was actually sent to her. I mean, that's just weird, where Franken has his hands over her breasts and is grinning and obviously using her as a kind of a prop while she was sleeping on a plane. And now there's a second accuser in the Franken case, and this is really significant, even though there's no photos here other than a photo of the two of them smiling that she posted on Facebook. This woman says that Al Franken grabbed her buttocks at the Minnesota State Fair in 2010, and Franken said she was offended. He's apologized. He doesn't remember the incident. But the significance here is, unlike the earlier episode, when he was a comedian who was thinking about getting into politics, he's a United States Senator in 2010 when this incident allegedly took place. Now, while the political world is churning over all this, the New York Times yesterday suspended Glenn Thrush, high-profile White House correspondent and MSNBC contributor, over several allegations of sexual harassment written in the liberal site Vox by a woman whose name is Laura McGann, who says that she herself was what would you say? That the way she says that they were in a bar and he unexpectedly kissed her and she was upset by that and she left. And she says Glenn Thrush sent her an apologetic email the next day. She also interviewed 3 other women. One said she had a drunken, consensual encounter with Glenn Thrush that left her shaken. The 2 other women, most of this took place when he was a reporter at Politico with colleagues at Politico, including Laura McGann, said there were incidents of unwanted kissing or touching. Now, here's what Glenn Thrush has to say about all this. He said he is apologizing to any woman who felt uncomfortable in my presence and for any situation where I behaved inappropriately, although he challenges Laura McGann's account on some points. He said he was deeply sorry for the most recent incident, which occurred back in June. Glenn Thrush also says that over the past several years, I've responded to a succession of personal and health crises by drinking heavily. He's done things that he is ashamed of, actions that have brought great hurt to my family and friends, and he's now going to begin an outpatient program for alcoholism. New York Times saying in a statement describing the suspension that calls the allegations very concerning, not in keeping with the standards and values of the New York Times. So this story, if you can call it that, allegations that began with Harvey Weinstein and all these folks in Hollywood, continues to spread in the media, in politics, and I think particularly when you have the Senate candidate Roy Moore and the incumbent Senator Al Franken, the people who are viewing this, the voters in Alabama, Franken's constituents in Minnesota, need to make judgments about whether there's a pattern here, about the credibility of the accusers, and about the news organizations inevitably that report this. But one advantage of being on TV, you can go click on the NBC interview with Lee Korfman, is that people who follow this can make their own judgments about who's telling the truth, how bad the incidents were, and what they think the appropriate political punishment should be.